The NHS North West Leadership Academy is a members model organisation. It's a shared service for NHS and NHS funded organisations in the North West of England and works with our members and provides leadership development interventions. In recent years, we've noticed that people are finding it increasingly difficult to release themselves, and so we started to look at different innovative and creative ways that we could take learning into an organisation or a locality, and the System Leadership Grants are one such way, which allowed a number of organisations collectively to access a grant to work on a specific piece of work, so that it means that the learning and the leadership learning is taking place in real life work. The Millom grant was a really interesting grant. Many of the grants involved cross-sector organisations, so not just health but local authorities, voluntary sector. But I think what stood out about the Millom grant was the fact that it was also involving the community.
Well, Millom's been in a recession for 40 years since the iron ore mines closed, and we've really struggled. And because we are at the bottom of Cumbria, we always feel that we are at the bottom of the pile. There was absolute outroar in the community, and we were all saying, everybody was speaking in the street and in the papers, that we had no answers and this couldn't possibly happen to us.
Within days the community had mobilised, it organised a public march. This was May 2014, 2,500 people marched in the streets. It really triggered something, a real surge in civil society in Millom, and an outrage really that what they saw was the final straw.
So for everybody to come out and support each other and our ideas was absolutely amazing, and I think everybody in the town was touched by it, because we believe that the people that were making our decisions for our town didn't live here. And being one of the most isolated places in the whole of Cumbria, we needed to portray what we have to go through every day, that we have to travel 50 miles to go to hospital, and that our health service was the centre point to our community.
So on the follow-up meeting, I invited that group to join us in a project and to really, interestingly, to take a lead on all our communications from now on, and we've done that now for 2 years, and it's been one of the best things we've done in the health system.
The first thing that we did was our recruitment video, and very successfully we recruited more doctors.
We think the doctors are great, but we need some more!
I offered to help, but they said,
come back in a few years' time!
Working with the community, we're integrated into our leadership team. We now have worked together, and in the first year we cut 120,000 miles of travel. Emergency admissions from the town have gone down 23% since we started doing this. Elective admissions, planned admissions 16%, care home admissions down 10%. There's a whole explosion, like a movement, a social movement around improving health happening here in Millom. I've been a doctor for 33 years. This is the most exciting thing that's happened in my career, working with this activated community.
The work that Millom have been doing around changing their services around the hospital and around the population really caught our attention, because they had really seemed to move from a place that was very difficult with a lot of challenge from the community to one where they were being very proactive and really involved in the service improvement and the service development over a relatively short space of time. So when the bid application was put out there from the North West Leadership Academy, we just sort of CLIC saw it as a real opportunity to capture the learning and do a project that enabled us to do that.
The whole application process to the System Leadership Grants is very robust. So the initial application form has to involve cross-sector partners. It really defines the outcomes that people are looking for. It looks at the dissemination of the learning. And I think in that first stage, we work with organisations around really honing in on what that looks like.
We were then shortlisted to go through what they called a Dragon's Den. We had a sort of panel of people who were involved in the Millom project, who were answering questions and sort of just explaining in more detail to the Leadership Academy what it was we wanted to do.
The Dragon's Den stage, I think, allows even greater rigour and challenge into that process. And then once Millom were actually successful in achieving the bid, one of our leadership experts actually went up and worked with them to then look at the actual leadership development intervention and how that could be honed and enhanced to get the best outcomes and to achieve the outcomes that they were looking for.
The funding that we got from the Leadership Academy enabled us to commission some external experts who have helped us to gather that learning. They did a lot of legwork around the people that had been involved in the changes in Millom, so they met with a huge number of people from right across both community leaders as well as health care. I think what we saw and what we really learned from Millom was that they very much have a collective leadership style. There was no one person who you would have identified as the leader. They all respected each other, they had a huge sense of responsibility that they had their part to play. So what we've done with that learning is we've sort of developed a framework that has 3 stages in it. The first one is we've titled Laying the Foundation, and just sort of captures all the activities, processes, things that should happen if you're really going to be successful in getting an initiative off the ground. There's then a stage that we call Taking Control Together, which is how do you sort of start to implement some of the ideas and some of the changes that you want. And then the third stage we call Sustaining the Alliance, which is, how do you maintain the relationships, how do you keep them going and make them sustainable for the future?
I think without the NWLA grant, we wouldn't have paid attention to the leadership aspects of what we're doing. We wouldn't have thought about it, we wouldn't have deconstructed it with expert advice, and we'd have probably wasted a lot of energy trying to take a model and say you should do this model, whereas it's not like that. We have to take some concepts, some approaches, and say these are the things that we've found works, and then create an environment in another place for this sort of thing to happen.
The output we wanted from the sort of bid in itself was that we would have something that we could then roll out and offer to other parts of the county. The development of integrated care communities such as Millom and the way they've worked is really important to the success of the overall change plans that we've got across health and care.
But the real magic ingredient has been that shifting relationship, integrating formally the community into our leadership structures.
I believe the community should be a partner and should make decisions. And I think each community has different problems. We being an isolated community has different problems to a city. But I think if you empower the right type of people to step forward and not look at problems but look at solutions, I think that we are the most valuable people in this.
When we look at the ambitions within the 5-year forward view and really trying to change the relationship with the public and putting the public in the driving seat of health and care, this is an absolute prime example of that, and I think there's a lot that can be taken and learned from it.